We should be. It says, there we go.
Think we're live streaming. Yeah.
We are here. Hello, hello, everyone. Good to see everyone here. Okay, so we're on Zoom, but we're streaming live to YouTube. So if you're tuning in on YouTube, welcome, welcome. Happy to have you here. So this was kind of an impromptu thing, and I'm super excited to be doing this. But I am here with my dear friend Alex Leanne Carter, who we've known each other for a bit now, both in the transformational leadership space, and she was actually my mentor in one of the programs that I went through in leadership. And she offered to come on and share her profound transformative experience with breathwork. So Alex, welcome. So happy to have you here. And I would love for you to just do a little intro about yourself, who you are, what you're up to.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm all about the irresistible leadership, and I'm a neuro coaching, transformational leadership coach. And so I did get to be one of Jen's mentors. And, during this process, I got to attend one of her workshops where she did a session on breath work. And I shared with her right off the bat, like it was game changing for me in that moment. So I am someone that up until very recently has, experienced generalized anxiety. I got diagnosed with this many years ago, have bouts of depression. And I even experienced a burnout many years ago in my role as a director of educational technology and innovation. And through meeting Jen and just being introduced to breath work, my mind has been completely mind blown. And I mean, I just can't believe how much my anxiety has been decreased, how much more grounded I am. And the feedback I used to give Jen is like when I think of Jen, she's grounded. I have now personally been receiving that feedback for the last 3 months or so, in just how I'm showing up, and people just really realizing like, wow, like I used to be someone very, I'm still very high energy, but almost that, like you could almost sense the angst energy in that, and just even the way you just kind of function from that kind of place. And I will say that even with two young children, like I am definitely grounded, I am present. And yeah, I definitely contribute. I start my day every day with breath work. And it's just having learned and understood the power of breath work. And I really stand that all female high achievers out there experience this, integrate it in part of their routine. And that's why I wanted to come here and really share how much I see it shifted for me, how much I really wish I knew about this many years ago. And it is something I share with every single one of my high performing clients to this day, of checking out Jen's, work and to start looking at integrating breath work into their day.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And yeah, I can really resonate with so much of what you say around high achievers, the stress, the overwhelm, the burnout, the anxiety, and of course, when left unchecked, it
Mm-hmm.
can be detrimental, right? And so I think we have a lot of similarities in terms of like just I know for me personally, just for years, just dealing with it, like not even knowing how to manage it or just thinking this is my normal, you
Yeah.
know? And it doesn't have to be that way. And yeah, just like for what you were saying about how breath work really brings you back to a grounded space where anxiety is not in the driver's seat
Yeah.
anymore. And that was the case for me. I mean, anxiety was the biggest thing that I noticed a shift in when I discovered breath work. And it's the number one thing that clients come to me for is when anxiety becomes a chronic thing and it's just really affecting your life in a variety of ways, it's like, what's the cost of continuing down that path
Mm-hmm.
versus actually looking at an alternative and that there is another way? And so, for you, um, and another thing I want to acknowledge too is your practice of it. It's
Mm.
not a one and done.
No.
There's not a magic pill. I wish there was, but there's not. And so hearing that you start your morning every day with it, it is the consistency. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about like from first of all, what sparked your interest to even give it a try? Because I know, like, of course, you know me and
Yeah.
you know it's what I do, and so that's great. But what about it like really piqued your interest to be like, okay, let me try this out? Because you're a neuro coach, you've got a lot of these tools and skills to address the subconscious patterning and programs. But what was it about breathwork that was like, huh, I'm curious?
Well, I think the first was your workshop, right? And it was like this tingling sensation and just the way that tingling in a positive way, but that also just how like relaxed I felt afterwards. There's a second moment too where I remember reaching out to you. I for someone, like myself, for a lot of people, when you get really excited, you can get like this really like high flush of energy. And that doesn't always help contribute to focus. And so I remember reaching out to you at one point saying, okay, Jen, how do I like just having studied and learned a lot from you? Like, how do I help myself get grounded? Right. Because I'm like up here vibrating, super excited, but I'm having difficulty focusing. And I just noticed that in a pattern for myself. And I think it was a day that I'm like, okay, I really get to focus here. And I was having difficulty. And it was just understanding like, okay, if breath work can support even just with anxiety, and knowing anxiety and excitement is the same actual emotion and going through our body, this can also support in that. And that's kind of what I was looking for in that moment. And I remember turning to you and you're just saying like, yeah, try this, is going to support you, because it's just about connecting with the breath work. And um I'll share the third event, and then also share something like I guess my disbelief around breath work. So the third event was actually having you on the podcast.
Oh, nice.
And we did a live breathwork session. And I immediately noticed my shift in energy on that podcast live. So I actually, because I guess we don't really notice, if we're in conversation with someone before and after breath work. But, I was excited having done the podcast. I'm excited to share the audience about breath work because just I knew how amazing it was. Jen was having my mind blown of the health benefits of breath work. And then we did this guided breathwork session. And when I spoke after that session and I noticed a massive shift in me, I was sold at that moment. And I have done breathwork every day since that moment. And I could probably count on one hand the amount of days I've shifted. Like I have, got support. So it might be right away when I wake up, but I like breathwork has been one of the most committed practices I've done in the last 3 months, which has been huge being a mom of two little ones.
It is huge.
And and what I wanted to share in terms of this disbelief that I did have around breathwork. So I would say it took me some enrolling to really understand breathwork, is that, you're told, um, especially if you do have anxiety, is to breathe. Pardon me. And many years ago, when I would catch myself having some panic attacks or being in states of anxiety, to ground myself and calm myself, it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work. And so I actually had a disbelief around breath work for a long time. And I was like, I did meditation. I was like doing all the things, but I wasn't really getting the result until obviously actually was on the interview. You kind of help dispel some of the myths that I had around it. And it was the education piece about breath work, even doing workouts, you'll hear the workout trainer, don't forget to breathe, don't forget to breathe. But it's like, until you like understand and get why, like what's actually going on in your body at that point.
Yeah.
So even as a neuro coach, like I get it. It's like, okay, I understand we get to breathe because that's how we access like our thinking brain and help us get away from the fight or flight. But it was like, how do I do it? And that's what's so beautiful, Jen, like with your process and your passion is there's an understanding like physiologically, is that the right word? Yeah. What's going on?
Physiologically.
Yeah, in our bodies
Mm-hmm.
to understand and then like surrender to it. I think that was it. A thing when we resist, like what we resist persists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I will go back to like like that podcast interview. And I just had like feeling how I felt just after that breath session. I was like, oh my goodness, if I felt like that just after this 10 minutes that you walked us through, imagine how I could feel every day if I started my day like this. And so, sometimes we get to experience it to believe in. And I think that's what it was. It was like, I grew the trust in you.
Mm-hmm.
You talked a lot about it. I admired you and always said like how grounded you were. And you always just kept saying it goes back to breath work. And so I think it's just having that example and seeing it. And then of course experiencing it. It's like, okay, this is something that yeah, had I really understood many years ago, that I would have shifted. And now I'm even, I get creative with how to help my daughter, integrate the breath work, right? With young kids with their big emotions, right? And so I too have educated myself on the importance of the breath work with our brains and our operating and things like that. And so this is just such a beautiful marriage together with like understanding the neuroscience of what's happening and also really actually being able to access and like decrease the amount of cortisol that's being, released in our head when you've got excitement going and or anxiety and things like that. So yeah, I would say that's kind of the process and journey I underwent to see like, okay, this is really, really powerful.
This works. Yeah, it's powerful. And thank you for sharing that because, yeah, I mean, not everyone is a believer. And I wasn't. It took me literally years. I recall seeing a like holistic doctor like years ago, um, who said, if you just change the way you breathed,
Yeah.
you'd feel so much better. And
Yeah.
I was like, whatever. I was like, and I was already working, like I was already practicing as a holistic health practitioner at the time, and I still didn't believe him. It took years later for breathwork to come into my life and for me to have that experience. It was the experience for me that
Yeah.
shifted. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I just did 20 minutes of that and I feel totally different. I feel amazing. Like why has no one told me about this before? But just like you mentioned, like learning how, that the how, like the
Hmm.
method actually,
Yeah.
because there's there's a lot of breath work out there that kind of like gets you high, quote unquote. Um, but it can also be very activating, very stimulating, and actually
Hmm.
worsen
Yeah.
anxiety. And I've had so many clients come to me with that saying like I've tried breath work and it made it worse. And I'm like, it's because you didn't do the right kind. And like here's like there's a certain way to breathe to either like bring excitement and like and activate the nervous system. And there's another way to breathe to actually like calm, to calm and regulate and 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 cease any sort of anxiety that's going on. So I appreciate you sharing that. Like once you learned the method or the technique or the how and experienced it yourself, that it made such a huge difference for you. Um, and I'm curious too, you said like on the podcast and even like on in your daily breath work, you experience these massive shifts. Like could you tell someone like in like how would you describe that? What does it feel like? Because I get asked this question a lot of like, you know, um, what does breath work give you? Like, how will I feel? What's it gonna be like? And there are some common words that people tend to use to describe it, and I'm curious how you would describe that shift.
I think I sent you a voice message one day and I said, Jen, it's like me going on like a 10-minute vacation every morning. You know, that sometimes, especially in the summer when I was able to sit outside, just like going outside and like feeling the breeze on my face. It was the 10 minutes of calm
Hmm.
before. I mean, I'm not saying the calm before the storm. I'm a mom. I got two littles, an 18-month-old and a 4-year-old, right? And it was just that moment for me. And in 10 minutes, we really can create 10 minutes. And it was just that calming piece, grounded.
Hmm.
Um, even just setting the intention of like being grounded in like the vision and future. And so not like the past creeping in. It's just really, or even not even the worry of the future. It was just like being in that moment in that space and really connecting with your words. And that's why I appreciate always like, guided meditation, pardon me, because of like just being able to like kind of allow myself to just like release and be present like in that moment and connect with the words and connect with the breath. And some days I am like on it with the breathing. Sorry. And some other days I'm like a little bit loosey with the breathing, but it's still just I just still can't get over how grounded and how less irritated I will get, or how just the patience that I have throughout my day is just so evident in
That's
me.
huge. That's huge. And
Yeah.
how has that, trickled and rippled into like your family life and your work life? Like what kind of impact has that had?
So one big thing I would say is I even pause and I breathe,
Mm,
which I mean, we talk about automatic thoughts, right? Like when it's not your automatic thing to do is to breathe. That's not the first thing you do. You actually hold your breath, right? Like how many people actually go and they end up holding their breath if they get frustrated or something goes wrong, they tense up, right? I
mhm,
actually, my now, because what, yeah, I think how many months are we? June, July, August, September, October. oh my goodness. So I'm at 6 months now. So I'm at
Nice.
6 months of doing daily breath work. So my default is not to go like this, which it used to be.
Yeah.
My default is actually to ground myself and breathe through it and think about, okay, how am I going to tackle this situation? That
Hmm.
was never the default,
Wow.
right? Especially, I mean, learning up to burnout. I was in complete fight or flight freeze constantly. Like my cortisol levels were sky high. Like it was unbelievable. I was going for physio because I was so tight and tense that I was experiencing back pain, shoulder pain. Like, I mean, it was crazy to see that. And I just generally even feel more relaxed and then able to, my ability to get focused is so much more rapid because again, I just, set the intention. I literally will say to myself, I get grounded. And I'll do grounding like by putting my hands on the desk, putting my hands on the floor. And it's just like taking myself back to that time and really connecting with my breath in my workouts. My workouts have become easier because I'm actually really connected with my breath and not breathing out, even when, you kind of want, it's funny to notice like, oh, you want to do that. And it's like, okay, no, like, let's like continue to breathe through. And I'm shocked at how much easier because of 6 months of breath work, even my workouts have become because I'm grounded in actually this practice of breath work.
Wow.
So yeah, those are just, I think some of the other things and
That's that's so major. I mean, to hear because yes, it's so true. Like when we are stressed and overwhelmed and feeling anxious, our bodies naturally contract. So
yeah.
so our muscles tense, everything gets tight. We hold our breath without realizing it. We hold our breath on the inhale, and then yeah, like over time that contributing to pain, like physical pain and anxiety and not being able to focus and concentrate and all the different things that it can kind of unfold as or show up as. But then even like hearing your exercise become easier through breath, which is so, so true when we learn how to breathe properly. Even our physical activity becomes easier. And I don't know if you found this to be the case, like, do you feel energized after a workout now versus perhaps tired? Because
Yeah. I
that's
mean, I
so
was saying
true.
to my husband before, I was like, I was really surprised at how like easy I felt my workout today. But
Yeah.
it's just really breathing through the movements, and I'm
Yeah.
not feeling, yeah, as complete like, oh, I'm real like drained. It's like, no, I'm really good to go. And so it's a huge, yeah, massive like as we're talking, I'm just realizing all these different areas. I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't even thought about that. But really just seeing, I mean, I know the audience is seeing me now, but really, like, I was off work for 6 months with burnout. I was going to Cairo and physio for over 2 or 3 years because of the stress and the anxiety. What I do want to say is I'm someone that was I have always been committed to be able to work through the anxiety or the depression through exercise, through meditation, I would say through breath work or what I
Yeah.
thought was breath work,
Right.
but I I just can't believe the massive shift that I've had even the last several months because of the regular actual breath work exercise that was not part of my previous regimen. And that's the thing, I was doing all those other things and I still had the burnout because there was a missing piece
Mm-hmm.
because I would try to breathe through if I felt a panic attack, and as I said earlier, I was just making it worse because I didn't know the proper technique to actually move through the anxiety. And it's like, honestly, it's rare that I feel it now. And if I do feel any of that, either the excitement or the anxiety, I do take a moment just to listen to one of your videos
Mm-hmm.
or even just take a second to really get grounded in my five senses, and to breathe through it just to get myself reset.
Amazing, amazing. And it is like I really appreciate you sharing all of this because there's so many there's so many people out there suffering needlessly when we've got this tool within us that is so, so healing and supportive, but the majority of us are using it incorrectly and making things
Mm-hmm.
worse. So I really appreciate you sharing your story. And I think, I work with men too, and I love working with men, but I do see like just women tend to be very overwhelmed and stressed and like again the high achievers, the working moms and with the overbooked schedules and it's an issue. And so So using our breath and being empowered by understanding, like gaining the tools and the knowledge to know how to use your breath, because it's with you all the time. You don't have to go to an appointment or use a device or do any of that. Like it's always with you. So once you know how to use it, you can really influence your state in, like you're saying, a matter of minutes. It doesn't have to take long. So Alex, I really appreciate you sharing your experience over these past 6 months of having breath work in your life and doing it regularly every day. And before we wrap, is there anything else you want to share?
I think it was just, like having a young dot, like having a toddler, right? I mean, toddlers go through the big emotions. So even studying and understanding a lot more how the brain works in a toddler
Hmm.
and just understanding and seeing even the challenge of even helping someone younger, like it's like they know they need to breathe, but it's looking and working with that, like in a child of that age, even to get them to in those state of moments. And that's what's important. I think that's what's the big shift of like it's not our default, right? We're going to be operating from our default up until we change the pattern, right? And when we're high achievers and when we're go, 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 the automatic is to go, go, go. The automatic isn't to slow down and take a pause to quote unquote breathe, right? And so it's setting that intention and really seeing the gift, right? I always talk about the power of the pause. This is a beautiful opportunity of where the power of the pause comes in. And really seeing how it can totally transform the rest of your day if you can gift yourself those 10 minutes. And from my understanding is you want to start breath work like right off the bat. It literally is the first thing my alarm goes off, I'm onto my breath work. And I guess that's what I mean. I've seen in my daughter just like the for her to become the default for her, that when she's experiencing those big emotions, for her to learn, because it's harder in those moments to go to the default of the breath work. But that's just a prime example of how so many of high performing women are operating. They're in the space of the go, go, go and unable to, in those moments, shift into the breath work because it is interruptive. But that's the reality. You get to interrupt the pattern that's not serving you.
Exactly.
So I think that my invitation is if you have not tried breath work, my invitation is please try breath work. Also to give it some time.
Hmm.
I like for some people you might experience like right off the bat, and for some it might take a little moment because again, if you're so used to operating from this go 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 place, it might take a little bit of time. So it would be, make a commitment of going in for, 7 or 14 days and really dedicating that time for it. I mean, I know I do it first thing in the morning. I'm sure Jenny can talk about advantages like different times of the day. I think actually even talked about like the afternoon lull too. Like
Yep.
those afternoon lulls, it's a beautiful
Mhm.
time. I know you've got some breathwork sessions on that too. But I can't like emphasize enough just how much this can greatly impact your focus, your productivity, your patience, your presence, your connectedness, your joy, your happiness. I mean, truly, the list really does go on of how much this can really greatly impact you, especially if you're a leader, high performer, you're leading a lot of people, because people feed off your energy. So if you can come in grounded and confident into a room, you're going to now create more groundedness and confidence around you. So I've seen that in me dramatically in the people in my space. And the feedback, like I said, I gave you, Jen, many like
You're
a
getting
year
it
ago.
now. Yeah.
I am now getting that feedback. And it's like, whoa, this is so cool. Because I guarantee you, a year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, the feedback that I would least expect to ever receive was that you are so grounded.
You're grounded. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're
Never,
getting it.
never in a million years. My sister has commented. My mom has commented.
Wow.
Honestly, I never in a million years I think that I would ever receive the feedback of you're so grounded, you're so confident. But it's
Yeah.
it's like, it's the things you don't really notice until you notice. And I think
Until you
that's
notice.
even this conversation has had me realize like, whoa, I have these are all the things I hadn't even thought about that have been a
Hmm.
benefit of doing regular breathwork practice.
That's yes, and it's huge. And yeah, getting that feedback, especially from people that that you're around often, is, I mean, that's very valuable feedback to say, huh, what have I changed in my life? What am I doing differently? Because we don't notice it. We're with ourselves all the time. We don't always notice it. And so having that feedback is so, so powerful. And then one other thing that you mentioned is people feed off your energy, or people feel your energy. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, that's so, so important to mention, whether you are a CEO of a company and you're running a business with employees, like, your energy is going to impact the whole company. Also, you're a parent, your kids are going to feel your energy. And so, or you're an employee, or you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. You're around people, and so people feel your energy. And are you attracting people, or are you repelling them? And when you come with a very grounded, a grounded energy that is an energy of giving and love, it comes through so much differently than very tight, contracted, walls up, tense, anxious energy. And so if breath work can support you in that, why not do it? It can absolutely have the power to improve relationships too.
Yeah.
So really, really beautiful. Well, Alex, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience. I'm just thrilled with how impactful breathwork has been for you. But it's to your credit that you've been doing it consistently every single day, because that's the key, the commitment and the consistency, and like you said in the beginning, the trust. Because yeah, if you are coming into this in a very high stress state and it's been chronic for a while, then it may take a few sessions, and it may take some longer sessions. Like, with my private clients, we usually do 45-minute to an hour long sessions, because there's if you've been operating in one state for like a really long time, then it may take a little bit to get you like
Yeah.
down and grounded.
And I see that because I mean, when I started it, I was at a very different stage and I'd already done a lot of healing and work.
Right.
So I was at a very different stage of um of when I started this. But yeah, yeah, a few years ago, if it would have been the case, yeah, I definitely see how a much more longer
Yeah.
session and like going much deeper would have supported me at that time. Yeah.
But doing that 10 to 20-minute daily is like such a beautiful, perfect practice. And then
Yeah.
having techniques that you can do throughout the day. Like you said, the power of the pause, and really just like having the awareness, just having that awareness and knowing like how to shift your breath quickly when something triggers you is just such a gift. And so yeah, Alex, thank you again. I really appreciate your willingness and openness to share your story and your experience, because I know it's going to help so many other people.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that we could do this because I know I've sent Jen many voice messages over the last several months of like, oh my goodness, this happened, and and I know she wanted a like a testimonial. I thought, why don't I just come in here and share, just like the whole transformation. I mean, like I said, we had Jen on the podcast. I think we'll drop the link to for you
Yes,
to
for sure.
learn more about the health benefits. Like that was the big thing, the big shift as well when Jen expressed that to me and me understanding and learning more about that. You know, like I said earlier, I've always been very committed to work through the anxiety, the depression naturally. And yet breath work was never anything that anyone really talked about. Yes, meditation, but not breath work. And when you can combine the breath work, the visualization, the meditation together, in that sort of little buffet, it's beautiful because like, again, anything from 10 to 20 minutes a day, and what I love is you can do it as you're waking up, which is so awesome. So it's a great way to start your day. So you're not starting off like heading off to stress, heading off to do, it's a nice way to enter your day, and then it sets yourself up for success in that day because you've entered the day gradually versus like meh, this massive like
Exactly.
alarm waking yourself up, which can really like can become very alerting to the body. So
Yeah,
it's just
jarring. Yeah,
yeah,
what a
it's
great way to
just
wake up with 10 minutes of breath work. And yeah, it sets the tone of your entire day.
yeah.
And so if any of this is speaking to you, if you're watching this, I'm gonna have it in the description below. One, the link to the podcast that I did with Alex. That was really fun. And then also, if you're curious and want to learn more, you can schedule a call with me. I'm happy to hop on and see if this might be a solution for you and where you're at and where you want to go. But yeah, like this video, subscribe. I have tons of breathwork sessions here on YouTube. And so you can start trying them out right here, right now. So thank you again, Alex, and thank you all for watching. And yeah, reach out to me if you have any questions or if I can support in any way. Thank you all.
Bye.